Hey everybody, welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's most ornithological work, and I try to not give away any spoilers. I'm Jenny, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Jenny convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Duress, chapters 12.1 and 12.2. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know how fucked the Negateers are, and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there'll be full spoilers to the chapters we are covering.
I like the Negateer as a name, because in Reddit, people have been calling them the Victorians, which really fucking confused me for a while, because it didn't click. That
St. Victor's,
So I was like, wait, who's the Victorians? Are there people wearing a bunch of old ass gowns and shit that I just missed?
It was like some fake practitioners or something.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I mean, that made a lot of sense, because I mean, you also could call them the Victors, but you don't want to call them the Victors. No. So, but I like the Negateers. Yes, and I know that implies 3, but we count Snowdrop as a Kenneteer, and we add people on kind of ish. So
yeah, they're just the inverse of.
They're the inverse. They're the Negateers, the negative Nancys, the just pessimisteers.
And actually, while there were 3 musketeers, there were many more than 3 mouseketeers. So I think the word musketeer in general doesn't have to mean 3.
3. There you go. I like it. I like that. Yeah, just look again, as we do often. We look to Disney.
It's a guiding light.
How sad is that? That's pretty great. I love it. All right. We are. Sorry. Plug.
Hey everyone, it's spooky season. Woo! And you might know what that means. It means you're 4 months late for planning your fucking Halloween costume, and you're fucked.
Guilty. I've got 2 kids, and I'm going to try to go to Walmart or some kind of store.
It feels like just... This feels pretty recently that I was like, oh, I'm going to try to do an Avery costume for Halloween. And I failed. But I'm like, oh, fuck.
But you don't have to be like Malia. And you don't have to be like Jenny. You can be prepared and send us pictures of your preparation and awesome costume skills.
Well, that's right. It's time for the annual Wildbow Costume Contest. Yay! Sponsored by Doof Media. Yay!
That's right.
I don't know why this is so unhinged already, but you should
just like your costumes will be unhinged and wild
and related to a Wildbow story.
That's right. And
all you Twig readers out there, fucking get on it. I want to see shit I don't understand.
Yeah. See, and this is the really fun thing, because we haven't read Twig, so technically you could just put on a random costume and we wouldn't fucking know. We would just be like, oh, I guess there's a unicorn in Twig. Or, oh, I guess, I don't know, there's a snake.
Scary
I don't
clown?
know why would. Yeah, scary. That makes more sense. I don't know why I said snake. It's a weird costume to think of. But you could be a creepy clown. Yeah. We don't know.
I mean, the fans might know that there is or is not one of those things, and it is the fans and the patrons who will vote.
That's true.
On your submissions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so what you do is you make a costume, you make sure, this is really important, this is key, okay? You get someone to take a picture of you in the costume. Don't forget that part.
That part's important. You can, if you do a drawing, it doesn't count. If you do a recording describing what you look like, that doesn't count either. We need a picture.
But if you do a drawing, save it for the next fan art contest.
Yes.
And submit that.
Yes.
So send us your picture to
even
fan
if it doesn't fit the theme. Just send it in.
Just send
and just be like, this was my costume, and you told me I could do this.
Well, okay, but for this right now, Get a picture of yourself and send it to fanart@doofmedia.com. The submissions are due November 4th, so you can wear them Halloween, get your picture, send it in.
Mhm.
And then patrons will be able to vote on the best one. Make sure you tell us like a title for your costume, because it doesn't have to be a character. It can be like an homage to something.
And ideally what work it's from so that we
Yes.
know.
Yes, those two things are important, because if some people haven't read Twig and don't want to be spoiled, or haven't read Ward and don't want to be spoiled, then they can skip that section.
I'm kind of hoping that someone is just going to try to fuck with us and dress up as like a twig or like a tree and then, and then have like their
They'll be
little,
like, oh, it's packed.
yeah, it's packed. Or is it twig? I don't know. It's like how tree filled must twig be? Because
Right,
like,
at what point was Walbo like, I should have named this Twig?
because you
I
would
have
have
an
thought
idea.
like packed. I mean, there's a lot of tree stuff in there, but like, holy crap, twig. Like,
Yeah, there haven't been
So
nearly as
dumb.
many like deals with devils as I anticipated, and there's been a lot more trees. So I mean, like one tree, but he's really important.
He's very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
send
send us
submit,
pictures of yourselves as a tree.
yeah, or some kind of thing. Dress up as something. Take a picture, send it in to us by November 4th. fanart@doofmedia.com. Pretty please.
Woo!
All right, cool. But we are on to a new arc, which is pretty exciting. All right.
Yay!
Yay. Time for some duress.
Yay!
So, so what does that mean? What does duress mean to you, Malia?
Well, I looked up the Google definition things, and then I also looked up the elements of duress in the legal context, so this will be fun. Sorry. So, duress is threats, violence, constraints, or other action brought to bear on someone to do something against their will or better judgment. I like the or better judgment on there. It just, yeah. Back in the day, it used to mean like forcible restraint or imprisonment. So not necessarily the like making someone do something bad, just like imprisoning. And so far that seems very applicable for this arc. It comes from the Latin word durus, which means hard. So that's cool.
Hard?
I think like physically. Actually, I'm not sure.
Like hard like a rock, or like
I think hard like a rock, not hard like difficult, but I'm not positive.
Is this because like they would be hitting people with rocks a lot?
They would restrain you like
you're technically under
a rock.
duress. Oh, okay.
I don't
know. It's hard to be under duress.
It is. It's not fun.
No. Okay.
So, in the legal system, duress is an affirmative defense that you can plead as a defendant in certain situations, most often being crimes or torts or contracts.
Sounded
think
really
specifically
exciting.
Contract formation. I just think it's really funny that it's like crime and then like contracts. I mean, contracts are scary, that is so that's fair.
There's a stand-up thing I need you to watch, by the way. Cool. This is really random. It's on Netflix. It's called Middleditch and Schwartz, and they're like an improv thing, and one of their improv things is about like a contract law class.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously nothing to do with real law shit, but I think they like pick an audience member and kind of like ask them questions about shit.
Cold call or whatever. Yeah, fun.
Yeah. So I think you'd like it.
Sounds fun.
Anyway.
Yeah, so duress is like, so an affirmative defense is something that you assert where you're saying like, yes, I did that thing, but I have a good reason, which means I'm not liable, right? So like, for instance, self-defense is often used for like murder or assault or whatever. Like, yes, I did kill this person, but they were trying to kill me, so I shouldn't be put in jail,
That's
right?
right. Fair is fair.
Right. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And so the defendant has to go and like prove that they were under duress, that they meet the elements of self-defense, they meet the elements of duress, right? So duress is one that doesn't necessarily apply to like any crime. So for instance, most jurisdictions, at least in the US, you can't use duress as a defense for murder. Like we don't cut you slack for killing someone because you are under duress. In a lot of jurisdictions, but basically anything else crime wise, usually it's cool. So duress has kind of three elements. And so the first one is that there has to be an immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury to a person. So not to your car, right? I don't think to your pet, which is awful. But yeah, to like a human being, there has to be a threat that they are immediately about to be seriously hurt or killed.
Okay.
And you have to believe that the person who's threatening that will actually do it, right?
Yeah.
And the last thing is you can't have any like reasonable opportunity to get out of the situation. Like the only way for you to get out of the situation or to avoid, by situation I mean death or serious bodily harm, is to do the bad thing that this person is trying to get you to do. So yeah. It's usually we think about it in terms of like a person trying to hurt you. But also like they can't call you on the phone and be like, in 20 minutes I'm gonna hurt you. Like because of that time delay, that's like a future threat. I mean maybe 20 minutes would be enough. Okay, yeah. So in a year and a half, I'm gonna kill you and your family if you don't, mail me a whatever. That doesn't fall under duress because like ideally you should like go to the police or whatever and be like, hi.
Like, hey, I got a concerning phone call.
Right. You don't get to do crimes. You don't get away with doing crimes unless you like really, really had a good reason. And so that time span is a good reason. Legally or whatever. But yeah, and it can't be like we'll burn down your house unless there's a person in your house. Or whatever. And I thought it'd be fun at this point to bring in a listener question because it applies to the arc title. And it'd be fun to answer on the podcast.
All right. Jarl Zarl asks, Malia, how do you feel about learning that apparently the story so far hasn't been in or under duress?
It kind of makes sense. I mean, there's the thing with duress. Well, I'm trying to, in my mind, distinguish between duress and self-defense, right? Because I think that this story has very much involved self-defense, taking offensive action sometimes, doing things to try to prevent like people from being able to do bad shit to you. Whereas when I think of duress, normally it's like, I'm holding a gun to your head so that you wire the money to the whatever the fuck, right? More using someone as an agent to do the thing as opposed to fighting back against that person who's forcing you to do the bad thing. And in my mind, there hasn't been a ton of forcing people to do stuff that I don't know. It's kind of hard to parse at this moment, but I mean it feels like duress is really scary when it comes to Diabolus. We've talked about this a bit, that Diabolus are pushed into a corner and then they use the demons because they feel like, there's no other choice. And so that might be what this is getting at for this arc title, which is thrilling. There's also the fact that at the end of this week's episode, they are pretty much locked in a library. And that comes from like kind of the old form of duress. But yeah, I guess we're ramping up the tension.
Yeah.
And now maybe someone's gonna do something bad. So that's fun.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. I'm gonna go over my chapter summary. So everybody's forced to team up against the super secret spies that are
James Bond.
outside. Peter and Blake try to keep Eva from betraying them. Blake's old boogeyman bros come in and attack the fam. Blake gives Alexis a bird. Blake and everyone fight a lot. They keep retreating into the house, and Green Eyes comes to the rescue, kind of. Blake beats the creepy twins, and then Eva gets to Andy, so they might not have leverage anymore, which is unfortunate. What did you think of the... blah, blah, blah. I had a stroke, but I'm fine now. What did you think of these chapters?
They were a lot. It's another one of the like really high action chapters. And there were a good couple of moments of like me getting to tinfoil about Blake and shit. But yeah, in general, it's just like high tension, high action. There's so much shit happening. Like when I was going back to do my notes, I would start like talking about one aspect of the fight and being like, oh, this happens, and like thinking that I would be able to resolve that part of the fight, but then like there'd be like 4 different points like that we jumped to before we came back to be like, and then the clock guy was defeated, and so it was wild and fun, and I feel like this is living up to what I thought Pact would be in terms of we are in the house and there are monsters and we're fighting, and that's really exciting.
That's awesome. This is random, and it's my own fault because I made a joke just now saying I had a stroke, but I'm fine now. Have you ever heard of Z-Dog?
No.
He's this doctor that I haven't looked in a while, but he makes funny YouTube videos, or at least used to. And he made this like parody video of like "Can't Feel My Face," but it also is like informative, talking about stroke symptoms. You know, he's like, I can't feel my face because when I'm with you because I'm stroking, you know, and but it talks about like the different symptoms, and I was just thinking of that because I want to listen to that again because it's a catchy song. But even before that, you'd always hear that song and just be like, yeah, they're having a stroke right now. Like every time, I was like, yeah, at least a TIA.
It is a weird
like what a
way
weird
to describe like feeling in love or whatever, because that's it, right?
I guess. I mean, I've never I think I'm in love, but I've never felt my face go numb, you know?
Right. I mean, it's like, you know, the butterflies in your stomach, like those are all kind of like ways to describe it that are more common, but not just like
I mean, have you had that feeling? Have you had your face go numb?
Only when I was at the dentist.
Okay. That'll do it.
Not my whole face, just
part of it.
Just the mouth part.
Just the mouth part. That'll do it.
It wasn't like fun. I
mean, I don't think it's ever fun for your face to go numb.
The song is positive, right? Okay, I can't feel my face song.
I mean, I guess it's positive.
Yeah, but I love it.
Oh, but I love it. That's right. Okay, I forgot about that.
And
man, this is from 2015. That's a long.
Oh well, it does start. I know she'll be the death of me, but at least we'll both be numb. So it's like about a toxic relationship.
But at least we'll both be beautiful and stay forever young. So yeah, they are gonna die.
Or it's about Botox.
Oh, you know what? That's true. You know what? I never thought about that. That's all right. She's like, oh, yeah, we both know we can't go without it, right? Botox.
Yeah.
Although people get Botox injections for migraines as well, but I don't think that's what they're talking about.
If the important thing is to be beautiful and stay forever young, yeah.
That's true. Is this song actually about Botox? Because I kind of feel like now
if the worst is yet to come, maybe this is like right before he gets the injection or whatever, and this is just like doctor being like, I need your money. And or Botox is being personified as she.
Wow.
I'm not finding a lot to disprove that in these lyrics.
I totally think it's Botox. I mean, I totally think it's Botox now. But I don't know. Apparently it's like is a woman, but It's supposed to be it's a metaphor for an addictive drug. Because the narrator's using drugs, so he's numb. And the worst is yet to come because addiction gets stronger, but when he's high, he'll feel beautiful and forever young. Okay, interesting. That makes
that
more
also
sense
makes
than
sense.
being in love with like a person. Yeah. All right. Anyway,
I still think Botox is funnier, but yeah, that's fair.
I'm still gonna go with Botox. But the stroke song is pretty good too because I feel like it's informative, and every time I heard that and hear that, still think stroke, straight up stroke. All right, so everyone's forced to team up against the others / super secret spies.
Yay. We get a nice it's not a recap. We get a nice like status check real fast. Like Alexis is not doing good. She doesn't want Blake to see her face. Tiffany is like the best but also stays in the library. Callan's not dead. He's also conscious. I'm like really shocked. Andy's in bed. Evan is guarding him. And yeah, we get to see the Thorburns realize that Eva is on their side, ? And that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite parts was when Catherine goes, "So can we call the police now? Can we, have them arrest these people for trying to murder us? Like, can we go?" And then Alexis gets to be like, "You'll die."
Like, oh shit.
And so everyone's like, okay. Yeah, there were a lot of like that part wasn't funny, but there are kind of a lot of funny-ish beats in this chapter, which was nice. But yeah, one thing though was the second time she says it, it's like a long drawn-out scream echoed outside, and I thought about Verona in the Jen interlude and how she was like holds up her hand or pauses, and she was hoping that there would be a big explosion to like punctuate her point, and there wasn't. And I was like, sometimes like the spirits do got the timing.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was pretty perfect, and yeah, it reminded me of that. I thought it was funny. So the Thorburns who haven't quite broken the innocence barrier are like, you need to explain this, and luckily Peter is kind of like not. He kind of gets that he can't just like tell everyone everything. And I think it's funny that Blake is like, yeah, I get it. I also want to sit here and like talk about things because Peter was like, I might remember you or something. And they just didn't complete that conversation because, I mean, they're about to die or whatever. But it was just like Blake being like, yeah, I'd like to figure out this secret. And I'm like, I think Catherine kind of wants like a bit more information about her immediate circumstances.
Yeah.
And like, I don't care if she gets that information, and I really want to know what the fuck that whole thing meant, but it was just sort of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
And I have a note about Midge being out there and fighting. And it's just interesting. Like we don't see Midge this chapter. I guess she gets overrun or something pretty quickly, and we know nothing about what Corviday's doing. Like I'm wondering if I don't think Corviday like got necessarily, but if Midge, got hurt enough that she went back to the shack or whatever, would probably make sense. Yeah. It was interesting the huge build up with these people to just be like, and they're out.
Yeah.
But it does buy them the time to have this fun argument sort of with the Thorburns. They decide they want the innocents to kind of hide in certain places in small groups. I'm assuming like partly to give them an innocent shield, but then partly to not have to worry about them and to be able to like go all out and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why he wasn't just like, okay, get up the fucking, get up the stairs. But I guess if, some people are in one area and some people are in another area and they scream real loud, you'll know like, oh, there's problems.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, they group everybody up. It's an easier target.
Yeah, that's true. God. And then, Ellie's like, I don't want to And Peter's like, just do it. And Peter describes how, like, there's a good chance that they'll be, like, cut up and put into different garbage bags by the end of the night. And Callan's like, hey, can you, like, fucking chill a little bit?
Mhm.
Don't spook the children. And Roxy's like, I'm not scared. And I'm like, that's horrifying. like she looks scared, but also, like, excited and fascinated. And I'm like, I don't love this. You're a scary little child.
Scary child.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I want to know more about Kristoff, because then I think Ellie said, like, Peter, I trust you more than anyone in this family except Kristoff because he can't fucking lie to save his life. And I'm like, that's so good. Like Kristoff's just like, he's the cinnamon rolliest Thorburn. Because even like David or whatever that kid's name was who got hurt when Blake broke the mirror or whatever, or the window, it was like, he's not the worst of these people, but he's still a complete shit. But we've never had that for Kristoff, and so I'm wondering if Kristoff is actually just like kind of okay. Which would be great.
Great, but also kind of like, oh, I'm sorry that you're here.
Well, so yes.
Yeah.
And then Peter says, if your balls are going to drop, let's have them drop now. Which just like,
thanks for being a dick, like, again.
It's just so, like, direct. I don't know what to describe it. It's just, he's not sugarcoating anything. And yeah, it felt like unnecessary, but also I kind of liked it, but also like not in real life. I don't know. I just like, it was a lot.
Just very
like,
aggressive.
Yeah, that's the word. It was very aggressive. But yeah, so Blake's slowly convincing the Thorburns to go places. Catherine and Roxy go upstairs to get the stuff that Ellie stole and hide on the second floor. Callan and Kristoff are gonna stay there, and they're like, Ellie, go up the stairs. And she's like, what if I go all the way up the stairs? And Blake's like, this is a mind trap. Like, what are the words that I can say that will convince her to not actually go up the stairs? Because saying, no, it'd be really bad, will make her go up the stairs. But being like, no, whatever, will make her go up the stairs. So he's in a bad place. And it's really funny. And then Eva's like, we're here because of the thing upstairs. Like, that's why we're here with all this shit. And, you know, Blake sort of says, yeah, it's really bad. Contamination. And Peter's like, oh, fuck bioweapons. Like, let's not. And then, hopefully, it's fine. But yeah, so Ellie goes, and yeah, so she's upstairs with like Andy and Evan, I guess, and then Peter is he's helping, he's doing his best. He tries to block the door to the basement because they hear stuff down there, and it's all about to pop off.
It's all about to go down. All right. Peter can tell that Eva's going to betray them and attacks. Yay. And she attacks back like hardcore. Blake's old boogeyman bros come in and attack everybody.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't necessarily expect like the greatest hits, because I mean we do also get a decent amount of new others, but it was fun seeing these ones we'd already met. But yeah, Eva is kind of like, you know, gonna try to make a deal to, you know, just sort of let some of them past or whatever. And Blake is like, I will kill your brother if you do this. Yeah. And Peter just sort of walks around the corner with a fireplace poker that he like swings at her, and she beats him up. But it seems to work well enough to convince her to do something, at least after Blake yells at her in a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so others are coming in, you know, the windows are all broken and whatever. Callan and Kristoff are on the couch with Alexis, who's like non-responsive. So that's fun. The Bahame boogeyman with the watch is like chasing Peter around. God, and then the old lady doorknob, where I was like, oh yeah, one of those cool crystal old lady doorknobs, like fucking gouges Peter, and that sucks. I hope he's okay. Like, because at some point soonish, we like Peter runs to the third floor and we kind of lose track of him. And I was unclear as to who made it into the library other than Evan and Andy. And I'm really hoping that Peter and Ellie are okay, because
Yeah.
Peter's apparently like fan favorite, and I feel like he's got to stick around a little bit longer. Yeah.
All right.
Oh my god! And one of the things about Peter is he's been like stabbed by this doorknob that like breaks or whatever horribly into his back, and he falls down to the floor, and he's like, "And now my pants are drenched. That's going to bug me all night." And I'm just like, "Why are you out here like making jokes, like making quips? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're just out here being fucking ridiculous." I mean, I guess like it's great, but it's just like, what are you doing? But yeah, so then it's like, okay, time to focus on. Well, okay, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently than the book because it's too complicated. But so Peter and the clock dude resolve when Peter runs upstairs, and Blake manages to kind of get in between the clock dude and Peter, and like, you know, slice him and stab the watch, and huzzah, we got one. In the meantime, there's the Revenant and the Faceless Woman who knits flesh together, which is cool. The way he describes he's like thinking about, he's bummed that he's fighting them because he's like, I almost liked the Revenant, and he thinks about that tale about the scorpion and the frog, where like the scorpion wants to get across and the frog's like, no, you're gonna like sting me and we'll both drown. And he's like, nah man, it'll be good. And the scorpion gets on his back, and just before they get to the end, he stings him and they're both gonna drown. And he's like, why did you do that? And he's like, well, it's my nature. And immediately he's like, this made me think of Green Eyes. And I was like, why are there all these like red flags for Green Eyes? I don't want this. I don't want, because like it seems like she's mostly just like, oh no. Well, I feel like she's just kind of like pro Blake, but I guess if she's like, Blake loves Alexis, she might try to kill Alexis. And that sucks. So, because she doesn't seem like she's like a double agent or whatever, but she does seem like if she gets heartbroken, she might do something bad. So I guess that's a prediction. That sucks. God. But yeah. Eva starts helping to fight the Revenant and fight the Faceless Woman. At some point she tries to cut the Revenant's head off with a knife, and the Faceless Woman like scratches her, which fucks up her nervous system, which fun.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're sort of like, you know, yeah, they're fighting, and Callan, they're not really fighting in the living room or whatever, like where Callan and Kristoff are, but then Callan is like talking to them, and he looks at her face for whatever for too long, and he's like, that's not a mask. And they're like, haha, we can fight now, because one of them has like crossed over into awareness, so there's less innocent protection. And it is interesting in this universe how there's like, it's such a strong protection, but then, you know, if you can just get people into a like the milkmaid still finds victims, like it's not perfect. And it's interesting seeing this line here between, okay, we're willing to go at you now. Is interesting. Yeah.
All right. So after a bit, well, Blake realizes Alexis is in even a worse state than he realized, and gives her a spirit bird, basically.
And a clue. So apparently Alexis, you know, like has been fucked up by the bird, or by the paper boogeyman lady, but also had like used her blood to help strengthen the library. And so she's just like, yeah, like not doing well. So Alexis is like, hey, possess me, like if I'm kind of a shell right now, like this will be convenient. And he's like, no, I think I'm still kind of too physical. I don't think that'll work. But he realizes like he's powered by spirit birds, and he can give her a spirit bird. So he realizes that like Callan is planning on leaving Alexis to get like picked off, and he's upset. And he convinces Kristoff to like help Alexis down into the water on the ground, because he can then, you know, Give her the bird. That's a weird. Give her the bird.
Give her the bird. It's hilarious. In a nice way.
In a nice way. In a somewhat literal way. And I'm trying to decide what order to talk about this in. I guess, yeah, briefly while we're on kind of Kristoff and Callan, he is like, hey, Callan, like, this is what Molly was dealing with. Like, this is, like, what was going on. Like, this is what has been so awful. And he reflects on Callan being, like, a horrible dickbag, but also, like, someone who loves his siblings. Just in a little beat of Thorburn backstory. Meanwhile, Alexis, gets into the water, and Blake pushes one of his spirit birds into her, and immediately, like, she has more energy, but she's, like, pale, and her eyes go black, which I wasn't sure if, like, completely all the way across black, or just, like, kind of black. I don't know. Black, and she's, like, her voice is more in the mirror world with Blake, which is interesting. And she maybe kind of gives a clue. I don't know. She's like, you feel like this all the time, like empty, cold, broken, distant. And Blake's like, yeah, this is who I am, lol. And it seems like she's like, you feel incomplete. I mean, it's like we've had indications that, Blake or Rose or whoever was the reflection, like, cut off of the other one. So, like, yeah, that would be, like, that doesn't feel like it's anything brand new. But on the other hand, I don't know. I think it seems to point toward they used to be one person that wasn't exactly Blake and wasn't exactly Rose theory. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Or it's just like, yeah, he's a vestige. Moving on. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So Alexis immediately, in the action, uses some of her power to set the television on fire, kind of, and the Revenant gets burned and runs away. And Eva and the Faceless Woman do, like, their secret best friend handshake and go, like, no grudges, no regrets, love you, girl, bye. And the Faceless Woman leaves.
So, yeah, Blake and everybody do a lot of fighting. Like, a fuckload of fighting.
Because, yeah, we had, like, 3 scary others in the house, and then the front door bomb gets set off, and so a whole bunch of random others, mostly a whole bunch of homunculi, just, like, flood into this fucking house. And that sucks. And Blake's like, and we still have 14 hours until dawn. And I'm like, winter sucks so bad. Like, this is the worst time to do this. Yeah. Just let's see.
Yeah.
But the sun sets at 5. That's like 7. I guess that'd be the sun coming up a little, well, because it's been 40 minutes. So I think the sun would come up, like, a little bit before 8. And 8 to 5, how many hours is that? Not a lot. Like, you're listening to Malia do math. Like, 9 hours. It'd be so much more convenient if this was summer, because then it'd be, like, more like 9 hours of dark, but also still having 8 hours until the sun came up would be too many. So I don't know. So new plan. Let's barricade the stairs. So they start finding furniture to try to block the stairs with. At one point they do this really awesome, like, Les Mis move or something where, like, I think, like, Ty, Tiff, Alexis, Callan, are all, like, reinforcing the blockade, and Eva is somehow, like, above them all with a fucking, like, curtain rod and machete, just, like, stabbing people with the barricade. Yeah. It's like, that's fucking cool. Yeah, that was a fun moment. I was bummed that Blake, like, I'm kind of bummed that Blake didn't pop up to the top floor more often to see just updates with them. I think would have been fun. But I do think that Blake's personality would have him sticking here unless there was, like, Evan, screaming about something or whatever. He wants to protect these people, and yeah. But yeah, so Kristoff and Roxy and Catherine are all hiding in the bedroom. and Blake's, coming out of the mirror the mirror world a lot to slash at things. He's hoping that if he's like scary enough, then they'll be like, this isn't worth it, and they'll leave.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, one of the Duchamp's connections is a homunculus guy practitioner, and he makes these really little gross things that have really
They're really
bad,
nasty looking.
tooth problems, and will probably give you really bad diseases if they bite you. It's a really fun image with when the Mountain Man comes, this huge scary dude, and then a whole bunch of these little guys as like this flood all around him. And while like they're not necessarily as immediate of a threat, they are like bad. Like they are it reminds me of the like, would you rather fight like what is it? Like one horse sized ant or 100 ant sized horses or whatever. I don't remember the
Gotcha.
other animal. But they're
There's
both
a lot of animals.
Right. I mean, they're both like scary and formidable in like their own way.
Yeah.
And they complement each other really well.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not getting in each other's way and they're hitting different shit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And also they're gross.
Yeah, they're fucking nasty.
Yeah, so Blake keeps getting shunted. His reflections get messed up and he loses his footing and he falls. The first time it's really bad is when the Mountain Man gets Blake and like rips his arms off and gets the hyena. Blake falls down in the basement and gets like, he repairs or whatever, he heals. But the next time it happens, he realizes, oh, this is like the drains in the abyss, because he's in like darkness for a bit before he ends up in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, like I'm pretty close to being pulled back.
Yeah.
So much so that his like birdie friends kind of abandon him, and like I feel like I've given up on Lefty and I'm sad. But he's not like, Lefty, where are you? And I'm just like, Lefty.
Maybe he's just holding Lefty closer to his heart,
Oh, I don't think so. But yeah, so he has to convince them to come back a couple of times. He describes when they're gone, that he's not really a tree anymore. He's just like himself without fingers and crap. Which is fun. So these spirits are really helping him out. I wonder what they're spirits of, and if we are going to find that out, or if it's just sort of like, yeah, spirits. It just seem to like trees and birds. Oh my god! And then he's talking about the homunculus one of the times he's down in the basement, or the homunculi, because they're still coming, and he thinks about how like there's got to be some sort of like mass manufactured method for these dudes. And then he's like a monster bake oven, and like that's so fucking good. Like that's so fucking good. I'm not sure if you're appreciating the 90s reference.
I mean, I do appreciate it. It's pretty sweet.
It's so funny.
It's pretty good.
I was like, if only Blake hadn't come up with that and I had somehow come up with that, it would have been an episode title. Like, it's really good.
It's really good. Just like easy bake ovens.
Which like aren't that big of a capacity, but maybe do go quick. I don't know.
I think they are pretty quick, right?
Yeah. I feel like you had one and I didn't, which is kind of a weird. We usually have weird like duplicates of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I have a vague memory of using one once, but I kind of feel like it wasn't mine.
Yeah, I remember having one. I feel like I used it with you.
Yeah, I think possibly.
I don't remember if we used it that often though. I feel like I would have, but
I feel like part of it was that you had to get more powders or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays you could probably Google and be like, I don't know, recipe for easy bake oven. Yeah. Just make a little child size thing.
But yeah, speaking of gags, the laughs, the first time when Blake's really fucked up and he gets back up and he's like, okay guys, and immediately Eva just like punches him in the face somehow.
I know, I was like, oh fuck.
So fucking good. Like comedy gold. Like, oh my god. like on the one hand, awful, like he has to convince all the spirits to come back. Like it's like that was horrible, but also so fucking
That was pretty funny. That was pretty damn good. Oh my goodness.
comedy gold. Eva. But yeah, so one thing about this chapter, which again I feel like a comic or some sort of visual medium would really help me, is like he's coming out of the reflections a lot, but I thought that when he did that he was blind, and sometimes he's describing things when he's like fighting, and I'm like, how can you be describing this if you're blind? Like, are your arms just coming out and your face is still staying in the water most of the time? It's a little confusing, but like here, like I guess if Eva just disturbs the reflection, he gets shunted.
Mhm.
So okay. Yeah, it was so fucking funny. It's why is that funny? Why is like the person I'm cheering for, is like going through a really hard time, and he manages to finally like pull himself together and like get back up and just like kind of miscalculates, and like makes someone like jump because they're in a bad situation and gets like completely fucked,
Mhm.
like gets like hurt even more, and he doesn't need this. He needs like all the strength he can get. Like, why is that funny? Because it's so fucking and humans are bad people or something. I don't know. Okay.
Malia's dying.
I'm dying. So, God, and another thing that was really funny was Eva like threw down the curtain rod she was using. And the first time I was like, I don't get it. And then the second time I was going through it and I was like, oh, I totally get what she was trying to do. It's just that like the dude is so big that instead of like slipping on it, which would have been like one, hilarious, and two, like really, really great, if he had like fallen down the stairs and took out a bunch of those little dudes.
Yeah, that would have
But
been
he's
really cool. But
right. And he's
no.
just so big that he just kind of flattens it and then he turns it into a spear later, which Peter gets to be kind of shitty about. And that was pretty funny where he's like, you armed it. Because yeah, it would have been really brilliant. It's interesting listening to Eva talk through fighting things like for the Revenant it's like, okay, cut his head off. For the big guy it's like, okay, knock him down. Like she has these basic kind of like, this is an assessment of my enemy and therefore this is the strategy I should do, like a bunch of those kind of like memorized. And a lot of them like make sense, but it's just interesting hearing her kind of work through, like I feel like she's gone through a bunch of like training stuff that involves like assessing an enemy and like figuring out the best strategy to deal with it quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's badass. It's like, God, she still kind of sucks or whatever, but these chapters make me kind of like her more.
Like she can hold her own for sure. Like, well, that's kind of an understatement.
Right. They would just be
She
like
can carry
completely fucked
everybody.
without her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like they'd also be fucked without Blake, and like, Green Eyes really comes in clutch in a horrifying way. But yeah, she's just so fucking badass. Oh god, at one point Ty has these nails that have tags on them, and Eva seems to know what they are or know whatever. And I love that she's like, do they work? And Ty goes, probably not. And like she tries it anyway, but then they don't work. I don't know, something about that was kind of like,
It's just like,
great.
well, they tried, I guess.
Right.
Forever.
A fun like undermining of tropes, I guess.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, I guess, of like the green orb thing and how like that was supposed to work but didn't work. And I'm still wondering what's up with that. But yeah, they're realizing shit's getting bad and maybe they shouldn't fight in this hallway anymore because it's not great. And he was like, well, maybe we should like leave out the window. And Ty's like, I was crucifying bats, so no, or something. And he was like, well, maybe we should do it. And they're like, well, there could be worse things out there. And she's like, yeah, but maybe not. So it's an interesting argument. Yeah. And in the meantime, she stabs a machete through the mountain man's foot into the floor, which is pretty great. And yeah, her nerves are fucked up and things are getting worse.
Yeah. Things are getting worse. It's getting fucked. All right. Let me see. Green Eyes to the rescue, sort of. Yay. And they keep retreating into the house, basically.
Yeah, that Blake tries to do this fun coordinated attack with her, kind of. He does a countdown for her to come out and is trying to think more strategically about not getting shunted. But yeah, so now there's the main villain, the main enemies or whatever. There's the Mountain Man, there's probably I think still Homunculi, yeah. There's the twins, and then there's the robot man, the android man or whatever. And so it's a new fun section of people to fight. Yeah, they're just also badass and cool. I like Green Eyes, like Blake describes her as lunging with forearm strength alone, which is so awesome. Just like she's so strong and powerful and like horrifying. Like she's very effective. Especially against the big dude. Like she's not very good against these twins. They stab her and they hurt her and that sucks. But against the Mountain Man, she's just like such a badass. And I guess it's kind of skipping ahead or whatever, but she's like the one who takes him down. And yeah, it's like she might have some sort of poison. She has barbed scales. She has like needle teeth that she bites into the dude's neck with a bunch. Whenever she like moves, she's like flaying his skin. At one point, Blake describes his muscles as like spaghetti squash, and I'm like, wow, I hate that. I hate that. And then yeah, so she's just like flaying and demolishing this man, and then at the end of it, when like they're done and they're about to like run away or whatever, just to like wrap this part up, she like rips his spine out of his body like she's the fucking Predator. And I was like, oh my god. Like
what the fuck?
And I think something about Eva like breaking it and something like, so he's like really dead or whatever, but it was just like, why is this your instinct? Like, why is this like, and now I will rip his spine out of his body. Oh my god.
Yeah. Like, holy shit.
And it's still like, I'm not seeing a lot of it, you know, implication that she's going to turn on them. Although there is the whole Blake loves Alexis thing hanging over us all, but she's scary. But I love her. I do.
Yeah.
She comes in clutch. But yeah, kind of going through enemies, I guess. The I think the homunculi go up to the third floor and start fucking with Ellie and Peter and Andy and Evan. So that's bad. I think the android man might end up there too eventually. But in the meantime, you know, there are these twins and they're freaky and we're gonna have to get them.
That's right. They're freaky.
They're freaky.
And
yeah.
Blake fights the creepy twins and is successful.
Woo!
Yay!
This was cool. I feel like this reminded me of like a goblin and fae fight kind of in terms of the whole finesse versus like bluntness. I'm curious as to what these dudes are and stuff. The incredible coordination and like, you know, like they're very, very in sync and able to like super like mirror each other and make things work out like really, really well and like defend each other and attack and all this stuff. But it's like at the cost of like they have to be mirrored.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
It's really cool. I loved that Blake was like, okay, when I attack the one who runs away, that doesn't go well for me because the other one attacks me. So I'm gonna attack the one that's attacking me. And then like immediately he's like stabbed through the hand, neck grabbed, and the other one stabbed through the hand, neck grabbed, and he's like, okay, this is worse. God. But yeah, so that really fucks up his throat, and everything. God, at one point he's like, my friends wouldn't recover like I could, and I'm like, that's true, Blake, but also like, you might just suddenly die or something. I don't know. But he says like, okay, I gotta think like a practitioner, which I kind of liked. It's fun seeing practitioners work through issues. And this is what helps him realize, okay, I'm just gonna chuck this fucking drawer at them. And yes, they're very coordinated, but like this attack isn't like symmetrical and perfect. And so that's what gets them. Like one of them gets hit. And Blake realizes that this is the key to beating them because the brother is hurt and they don't start going again. They don't like move again until the sister hurts herself in the exact same way. So that like they are still like mirrored or whatever. Describing this as mirrored freaks me out because like
Because
Blake
there's
is
already like
mirrored.
mirrors.
Yeah.
Mirrored. Yeah.
What is this telling me about Blake?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Maybe nothing. It might be nothing, but
yeah. So then Blake wounds the sister and gets so the brother's gonna match it, and right when he's like has his knife near his face, Blake shoves the knife into the eye socket, which kills him.
Smart.
And the sister's like, okay.
I guess I'm stabbing
And
myself
she
in the face.
shoves the knife into her own eye and is dead. And like, holy shit.
Ouch.
It's interesting that like once he was dead, she didn't just snap out of it. But I guess the thing is, yeah, they're like one thing. They're not two things. Like they are duality, but they're like one organism. And so it wasn't like I'm free. It was like, oh, half of me is dead. And I must match. Ugh. Yeah. Also at some point, Tai starts using this Japanese practice to like make it rain with a bunch of papers with like words on them, like not even really runes. I'm not sure what he was doing. It seems like they set the mountain man's head on fire, so that's fun.
Yeah,
but
something.
So they're trying to, practitioner-y it up. It's interesting seeing Tai and Alexis do some work. They seem to, Alexis sets the television on fire really quickly. Tai does a crucifixion binding thing. Like they've learned things, they know things, but they're no Eva, they're no Blake, in terms of fighting, and that's interesting. I hope we get to see some like badass shit from them at some point.
All right, so Next they escape into the library and Eva gets to Andy.
Hey. This library. Yeah. Blake reflects on Eva and Andy and on the twins that he just killed, and he's like, why can't I have that kind of relationship with Rose? Which is like kind of sweet and kind of true. But also like Eva and Andy don't have the best relationship. It's just lately they've been working together really well. And he realizes like, oh, but those twins just fucking died because of it. And like Eva might die because of it. Like she's vulnerable because of this relationship. And I'm not sure what that says about everything. What that says about Blake and Rose, but it was an interesting moment. And Eva, lovely as ever, is like, if my brother dies, like, I'll kill you with fire because fire's bad. And Tiff's like, well, you actually just suffocate from the smoke. And Eva's like, I won't let you. It's like, great. Thanks for that.
Thanks for that.
That definitely helps me not like be too afraid and panicked to work effectively. Great plan. But it's fine. They do a charge. They manage to get to the library and get in, and it seems like everyone is inside. All the people in the fight and then the Thorburns in the bedroom are all in the library on the second floor. And on the top floor, there's Evan and Andy and hopefully Peter and Ellie. I'm not sure. And like the automaton or something is like up there trying to fight his way in. And Eva gets up to Andy. And when I was reading it, I was like, why is that a problem? And then, but it's like, oh, right. Because now if she can just get out of there with her brother, then
then she doesn't have to cooperate.
She's just
she might
out of there.
Yeah.
Right. If they're locked in the library, maybe she needs to cooperate more, or maybe she just wants to kill them all. I don't know. Andy certainly isn't in a place where he can protect himself. But yeah, so I'm not sure if they're just going to get out or if they'll be able to convince her to work with them longer. It feels like if she can get Andy out, she will, but I'm not sure that is what's happening yet. I don't know.
We will see. All right. Time for our pale in comparison section.
Woo!
All right. So what can we compare this to pale?
Yeah, it's like a big fight scene. I can't necessarily remember any.
I'm almost thinking, or the one that pops to my mind, just in terms of like having to keep retreating, is almost when Chloe went real feral and was going after Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
This kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, and that was trying to infiltrate a building.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like our side was the one doing it. Yeah. That was scary and upsetting and yeah. So they were all on the outside. They were trying to get into the building. They were fighting in the rafters.
They were fighting all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah, it is kind of the opposite. Besides just that, like in this, I guess in these two chapters, invaders are coming in, and in Pale, we were trying to get into another building, but also like we were on the more, I guess. Well, I guess they both had others and everything, but I guess like Pale also involved like a witch hunter that was trying to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Ghouls aren't boogeymen, aren't they?
What was that?
What? Ghouls aren't boogeymen. So that's slightly different, but still there.
It doesn't have to parallel exactly, but
yeah,
you know.
I think it's also just been like a long time since I've read that, and so I'm having a hard time remembering the details. But yeah,
me
I
too.
do think that those have very similar vibes. Nighttime, scary stairs. Yeah.
Nighttime, scary stairs. Yes. All right, Malia. Now it's time for you to give your bold and specific prediction under duress.
Fun. Well, okay, so I think that Green Eyes is going to get insulted or heartbroken by Blake and will snap and try to fight Alexis. There's one. I'm gonna say I think, well, in terms of if Andy and Eva are gonna get out, it's like there might be too many people, but also Eva's super useful, but maybe we're moving on to a different part of the conflict where we don't need her and we can like thin out the characters a little bit to make it a little more compact. But no, okay. Eva and Andy will be trapped with them in the library until at least the end of the next section of chapters we're gonna read.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think they'll be trapped in the library. God, I don't know. Rose has to come back sometime. An interesting prediction that I'm not sure if it's true, but it'd be interesting if the rest of the story took place between now and sunrise.
It is a fast-paced story.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that fast-paced though.
I guess
so.
We'll
no,
see.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. What about? I don't know. What's the most distressing thing that's going to happen next couple chapters?
Oh, Eva's under duress. That's funny. Eva's literally under duress in this chapter because Blake threatens to kill her brother, and she believes it and does the thing. Anyway, bad things. Like it just feels like we're heading toward using Barbatorum to do something. And we still haven't seen the Forsworn person. And it kind of feels like the duress is referring to being forced to use a demon. So I guess Rose is going to come back and make a bad deal with Barbatorum in this section.
All right.
Sure.
Cool.
In this arc.
Well, I like it. That's a good one. Okay. Our discussion question from last week. What minor character from Pale would you love to see an interlude from and why? And then we also said you had to wish our mom a happy birthday, which everyone did, which was really nice. So we'll start with Thomas Berubig, aka Tommy B. So he says, I don't know if he's really a minor character, but I'd love to read a Booker interlude. Booker would be the perfect candidate to really explore the innocent part of Kennet and the changes that have been wrought by the Kenneteers, and also the sort of semi-awareness that permeates the town. Booker is repeatedly shown as a pillar of the community amongst his peers, but he's also a bit of an outsider, having left the town and coming back only once in a while, which means he's perfectly poised to see the changes that have happened. And we also might see a bit of magical Ottawa, which, as it's my new hometown, would make me super happy. Oh, that's cool.
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Ottawa. I think Booker would be great. Yeah, I agree. I hope we get that. Yeah. Propaganda Pagoda says that they would want to see inside the Turtle Queen's head. She's being nice, but it's like she's just trying it out. Why would she settle? Is it self-preservation? And Propaganda Pagoda has been mad since someone recommended that she read a book. But the books that she gets become books about her. And that's sort of upsetting. They say that TQ needs to be tutored and allowed to ask questions about the world. Maybe let her learn about things other than herself. And maybe Monty can get a technomancy set up so she can access stuff and let him Google things for her. And then they'll be even. So that's cute.
Mm-hmm. Sweet Manzana says, happy birthday to our mom, which is nice. I want to see what Jabber's perspective is like. What are his thoughts and dreams? How he feels about the current state of Kennet? What is his favorite kind of box to be shoved into? And does he like Biscuit as his handler? I also want the goblins to put him on a box and throw down Cherry's slide.
I want Jabber to go down the slide. That's so fun.
That's a good idea. All right.
Sangachi says happy birthday to our mom, and that they still really love the card that they got when they won the drawing for one of the Our Mom Critiques Wildbow episodes. And that's very sweet.
That's very sweet. And Hobo Demon also says happy birthday, and as my answer to the discussion question, a what?
Which, like, the homunculus?
I don't know.
Question mark?
Anyway. EYWOT. A what?
A what? Macy 1 also wishes our mom a happy birthday, and then says something that I think... Okay, I don't get this. I feel like this is something within the fandom, so y'all can enlighten me. But they say that Cherry Pop hasn't had an interlude, so Cherry Pop? But I thought Cherry Pop had an interlude. Anyway, Tatty would be fun, or the new snowsuit goblin, the cool gangster man, or Gashwad. But if we're talking non-goblins, a Julette interlude would be a really fun way to explore Verona's character by contrast. And then the newest chapter came out, so yeah. Huzzah.
Huzzah. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely had, I mean, in my opinion, 2 interludes, because I count the April Fool's one.
Yeah, Cherry Pop, yeah.
But then I also was Googling just which one it was. It's False Move 12A.
Right, but then there's also a 12.A, and people maybe feel weird about that. I don't know. I don't get it.
Is that not the same one I'm looking at?
No, there's 2 different ones.
Which one's 12.A? Who knows?
It's later. Oh, it's after 12.
Later. Okay, well that's cool. It's just 12A, because Cherry Pop, I think it would have been funny if it would have just been like 12.
12.A was I think the Witch Hunter interlude.
Oh, okay. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I just checked. It's a lot later in the arc.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's there. But yeah, who knows? Maybe it's a inside joke we're missing.
Sounds like a meme.
Yeah, it very well might be that we're just missing the point on. Oh my God. Yeah, I know that was a little rough.
Also, speaking of Gashwad, I was thinking about who would make better judges. And maybe, the whole system of judges needs to be like thrown out. But like I want Monty for Alabaster. I think the Doom could be an interesting Sable, but I don't want Matthew to have to be Sable. So I don't know. The Toady could maybe be an interesting Aurum. And then I want Gashwad for Carmine. I don't really know why, but it sort of makes me happy. The dude who wants to fight so bad, even if he's not as good at it as other things. And it just, yeah. He's a weirdo, and I love
He's a
him.
weirdo. So good.
Yeah.
All right. New discussion question for this week. I misread that for a second. I was like, no. Okay. Anyway, so the discussion question is which of the others in this chapter would you least want to fight and why? And when I read that, missed the least part. It was just like, which ones would you want to fight and why? And I was like, that's a weird discussion question, Malia. None. That's my answer. But that makes more sense. Cool.
Yeah. It could also be fun to like, I was trying to think of a way to phrase like, you know, ninjas or pirates or like, you know, Batman or Superman, like one of those questions where it's like who would win, but then I just couldn't. So you can do a who would win type thing, or which one would you least like to fight? Because we got introduced in some pretty cool others. And I think to be low, which one of the combatants in these chapters would you least want to fight and why? Because I think Eva should be included.
Yeah.
As an option.
Well, that's my answer.
Not the flesh woman or the...
Well, like they're all bad options. I mean, I wouldn't want to fight any of them.
Green eyes, holy fuck.
No.
Green eyes.
Yeah, that would be terrible. I don't know.
Oh, she's scary.
I guess maybe Eva. Well, I'm just like, if Eva could take them, then I probably really don't want to fight her. So
that's true.
Getting at. But also maybe she'd make it fast.
Eva v Green Eyes, who would win? Eva would win.
Eva would win.
Yeah.
I mean, she just would. So that's kind of like
she would.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's my answer. But well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a rating and review. To support our podcast, go to patreon.com/joofmedia. And if you'd like to support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories, go to patreon.com/wildbow.
You can follow the pod on Twitter at Pale Comparison, or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to a prediction tracker. Next episode, we will be covering chapters 12.3 and 12.4.
And just to remind everyone again, put some costumes on that are Wildbow related and send us a picture of them, and you might win money.
Woo!
Send it by November 4th to fanart@doofmedia.com.
And make sure you get that picture.
Get the picture.
Like, so, you know, at the beginning of the evening or whatever, where you like just get all your shit on and like it's kind of awkward and you don't want people to, you don't want to be like, hey, like take a picture of me immediately. You're kind of like, you maybe a little shy and maybe a little whatever. You got to push through that. You got to say, hey, you have to take a picture of me right now. And if I win, I'll give you 1% of my winnings, which is $1.
Unless like going out for the night's going to enhance like the costume, you know? Like,
all right, don't stop there, but get that first one so you know you got it.
True. All right. So my fun facts. This is just too much, but whatever. You know, it's fine. So Hocus Pocus 2. I don't remember if it's actually called Hocus Pocus 2, but
it's like it is.
Is it? Okay. Well, the sequel to Hocus Pocus is out, which is exciting. Because I fucking love Hocus Pocus, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's surprise, a Disney movie. Shocker. That came out like in the early 90s, and has Bette Midler, Kathleen Najimy. I probably should have looked up how to say her name before that. Najimy, whatever.
I think it's I don't know.
That's probably her name.
I think you were right.
Yeah. One of those is right. And Sarah Jessica Parker, and they star in it as some witches. And it's just a classic. It's really fun to watch. So I'm going to read some facts. I'm not going to probably read all these facts because there's 14 fucking facts, and some of them are not like interesting enough to say, you know. So let me scroll down to a couple of them. Okay, this is the one that stood out to me. So there's a little 10-year-old girl who also is like one of the main people in this movie. Hilariously, the actress learned the meaning of the word virgin because of this movie. Like, she had to have it explained to her because it was in the script. So hilarious. Also, there's a party scene, like a costume party scene, in this movie, that all the adults and parents go to, and they get, like, I don't know, hypnotized or whatever by the witches to just keep partying all night. And the costumes were basically hand-me-downs. The wardrobe department ran out of money, so they pulled, like, old costumes from the Disney costume department, which honestly, that's really smart. They should do that just to, you know, not waste.
Reuse.
Yeah, exactly. Another fact, Hocus Pocus, even though it's definitely a Halloween movie, was released in July, which
Gotta get hype.
and shockingly, it performed relatively poorly at the box office. So maybe put Halloween movies out around
July.
Halloween. Yeah. That was kind of a stupid move. Billy, the zombie, apparently was supposed to be an attractive zombie. So I'll let you be the judge of that, if they were successful or not. I never.
Hot Zomb.
Yeah. Okay. There's a cat in it called Binks. It's the same animatronic cat that they used as Salem, which is the cat in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So, fun fact there. And Hocus Pocus is Bette Midler's favorite movie. She says she was flawless in that movie, which I'm not gonna lie. She was. She was like fucking perfect. She was perfect. So we could have had Rosie O'Donnell as one of the witches. That she was reluctant to play a scary character. And then the role of Max, which is like our leading teenage heartthrob in this movie, could have been played by Leonardo DiCaprio, but he was too busy to take the role.
And the thing I find the funniest about that is if you've seen NCIS, the character. Wait. You meant Max?
Yeah, who did I say? Did I say Max?
Oh, sorry.
Max?
No. You're right. I was thinking about Binks. So I never thought of Max as the heartthrob, whatever. He is the main character of the movie. But Binks, the cat, was cursed by the witches. This happens pretty early in the movie, so it's not really spoilers. Also, you should watch this movie. But he was like the heartthrob in my mind when I watched this movie. And if you've seen NCIS, he's played by McGee, the kind of like dorky.
Yeah. How is that not in this fact list?
It really should be.
That really should
really
be
funny. Now, like when I watch it, because I remember being like, "Oh, Thackeray Binks," and now I watch it, I'm like, "Lol."
Like, holy crap. Yeah, it's the same guy, which if you guys have seen this clip of NCIS, him and the gothic girl are like, "Oh, we're being hacked." And they both start frantically typing on the same keyboard to like, which is just like, wow. I mean, I'm not an expert at computers, but I just feel like that's not the way to go about it, but it was really funny.
Really funny.
You've seen that, right, Malia?
I'm probably seen that episode, so yes.
Okay. I'm like, I'm gonna find that clip for you.
I love it, CIS.
All right, guys. We will talk at you, because we're not really talking to you, let's be real, but we'll talk at you next week. And we'll read your comments and everything. So thank you for listening.
Go watch Hocus Pocus.
Do it.
Bye.
Bye.